excited to lead this panel. Again, thank you, Maddie, for the amazing energy, the amazing introduction. For anyone who is new to me and this panel, my name is Robin Nissam. I built a career essentially out of being a millennial, taking brands like Michelin and Nissan onto social media. And from there, I went out and built Ulta Beauty's first ever influencer marketing program. I was head of social at some really big brands like Anastasia Beverly Hills, Alo Yoga, built some of the largest and most profitable brand social communities on the internet. And it is no question that since I did all of those things, TikTok has really come and disrupted the market and completely turned it on its head from a content perspective, from a discovery perspective, to how we work with creators and really strengthening the whole affiliate model perspective. And so I'm super excited to have an amazing panel here of people from the platform TikTok. We have agency operators. We have people who are building out affiliate programs. We have people who have built out brands with talent being the lead of those brands. So without further ado, I'm just going to quickly do a quick round robin so that you can get to know who we're going to be hearing from today. And let's start with you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for the intro, Robin. I love the energy. This is so fun. I am on. I do currently work at TikTok. My previous career prior to TikTok was mostly strategy and operations work. So I was at Bain for a long time. I also did that at Live Nation Entertainment. So I've sort of been in like strategy and operations for a while. At TikTok, I have done lots of work with brands. I used to help lead our UK digital advertising business. And now I work on in a strategy and ops sort of chief of staff role for our content and creator partnerships team. I spend also a lot of time working with startups. A lot of time startups will ask me like, how do we leverage TikTok? How do we build creator ecosystem? So that's a lot of where my expertise comes in. But yeah, no, I'm excited to talk to you guys today.
Yes, thank you for being here. And next we'll go with Mara.
Hello, everyone. How are you? I'm very excited to be here as well. I'm the influencer marketing lead at Instance. And just to give you a little bit of information, we have a community of over 100,000 vetted creators. And only last month, we closed 7,000 and creator deals. Our creator payments last month were up to $1 million. And actually, one person in our community made $30,000 in 1 month with us. So our very, very excited about this conversation.
That is very exciting. Thank you so much for being here. Maya, you're next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Maya. I am currently a TikTok shop strategist working at Sova. We are a TikTok shop marketing agency. Previously, I was at Seek, which is a clear protein powder startup that found major success on TikTok. And essentially, I helped scale the brand from that startup level to a seven-figure brand through TikTok shop affiliates. So that's a lot of what I'll dive into today.
Incredible. And Brian.
Hey guys, Brian. I'm from the brand side, so I've built roughly 8 brands all around talent. So talent as equity holders, talent as ways to amplify the brand, and these are CPG brands doing here between 10 and $300 million in sales. It's across beauty, beverage, food, travel, anything you can think about. So a lot of my experiences top-down creator-driven marketing campaign. So big talent, supporting talent, macro talent, micro talent, how to set goals, how to execute across all those channels, across all DDC as well as retail, as well as experiential. So that's who I am currently at Trip. Trip is a calming adaptogen beverage, big in the UK, and I'm helping them launch in the US right now.
Incredible. And last but not least, we have Somi.
Hi, everyone. So I'm also from the brand side, like Brian, and I worked in the beauty space for the last 10 years. Also now currently in fashion, and I've helped beauty brands also scale and help scale the brand as well, ranging from 10 million and up. And I've worked with the influencer sides and creators. So anywhere from nano and micro creators all the way up to macro and working across experiential events, but also just doing campaigns and like how to help scale the program and work with the affiliates. I think when you start seeing success, brands oftentimes have to scale and they need help with that. So really helping on the affiliate and scaling side. So that's also what I'll be diving in, and along with just regular, or not regular, but general content and overall like rules and things that people generally like to know about influencers.
What an incredible panel, you guys. We're covering all angles. You guys have all pushed serious numbers and done crazy things. So, truly, thank you for being here with me today. I'm so excited to get into this. Just a quick audience poll. I'm curious to know, as we think about the modern creator playbook, who here feels confident in understanding the diverse range of creators that we're using? Like micro creators and nano creators versus macros versus traditional influencers versus affiliates versus UGC, let's say ambassadors. I'm trying to think of what else. We can talk about employee generated content. From the audience, I would love to hear from you guys in the chat. Who feels like they understand all of that? Or would it be meaningful for us to just start with diving into the difference across all of the different, let's call it roadways into creator marketing? Yes, okay. I'm seeing people want to dive into this. So let's start there. Who has something to say? Maybe Maya, do you want to lean into the differences across all of these different entry points to creator marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this is great we're talking about this because I think the mistake a lot of brands make is they just lump this all together. And the thing is, each comes with its own strategy, right? So making sure that brands understand the difference between these is crucial to see success with creator marketing. Um, when it comes to creators, any creator that's labeled micro, nano, macro, that's going to be based on the number of followers they have. If it's a nano creator, they likely have less than 10,000 followers. Micro, I believe, is 10,000 to 50,000. And then it just kind of scales from there, goes to macro, goes to celebrity. So whenever someone is referencing those labels when it comes to creators, that's all they're referring to is how they're based on audience numbers. So keep that in mind as we go through this, because that can then be applied to influencers. You could have a micro influencer, a macro, and those will come with different numbers a lot of the times, not only in following, but in like what they're charging to work with, right? A micro influencer is likely going to cost less than working with a macro influencer. But influencers in general, these are people who have a large following on social media. And not only a large following, but an audience that's engaged with them, that they're known well for within their industry or their category or their niche. And so influencers are based around audience and following. Then you have affiliates. And I think a lot of times people will confuse influencers and affiliates. But the thing with affiliates is you don't have to have a huge following to be an affiliate. You essentially just need to know how to sell a product. And so that's why TikTok Shop has blown up, is because it's leveraging just everyday people who know how to sell and who can set up a camera and talk to it. But essentially, affiliates will make commission once they've sold a product. And so brands are definitely gravitating towards affiliate marketing because it's a higher ROI. They know that they can just give this everyday person who knows how to sell their product, and then they make commission on it versus like paying a large macro level influencer thousands of dollars for a single video. Yes, you're tapping into that audience and building brand awareness, but as we know, brands are prioritizing profit over branding a lot of times. And so that's where a lot of those differences come in. Then you have ambassadors. Ambassadors can be literally anyone. Think of them as like brand loyalists, people that genuinely care about your brand. They're ride or die. They're purchasing all the time. They're not necessarily getting anything in return. They just genuinely love your brand. And that later we'll talk about how to turn customers into those brand advocates. But that's kind of a just high level difference of all these different tiers. Hopefully that was helpful. If there's any follow-up questions on that, but thank you, Robin.
Of course, yeah. And I'll open the floor to anyone else that wants to add anything, please.
Well,
Yeah,
I would add
oh,
that. Well, go ahead. Okay, I can go. I'm already unmuted. You, Maya, were saying that you need to know your creator tiers before deciding what to do and what we're talking about. And I would add that you have to know your goals. It's very important to know what's your campaign and your brand and your business goal before tapping into micro, nano, knowing the difference. I think that's very important because the way we approach each tier and the thing that we ask and the budget that we handle for everything is very different. So I would say your first step would be, yes, knowing your tiers, but then knowing your goal. What do you want to do and what budget do you have to achieve that goal?
Totally. And I think too, before we even get into the like tactics of doing it, just to be super clear, right? Like Maya was saying, an influencer, maybe they just create really beautiful content. An affiliate has trained their audience to buy. Some content is for your brand to put paid media behind and run a campaign. Other content the brand will never even touch, and it works for the brand down the road. Ambassadors are people who potentially have a face in the brand. We have employees now who are posting online on behalf of their company, and they're getting not only to leverage the brand's name and likeness, but they get a return on whatever business they bring in. And so, if anyone else has anything to add from that, I will open the floor and then maybe we can start moving on to some of the tactical things after we're clear on this.
Yeah, I think I mean, to halo what was already been said, I think as you look at a creator campaign from a brand side, whatever that may be, if you're looking to engage in it, one is yes, set goals. Goals will then trickle down to who you hire and why you hire them, right? And we have to remember now more than ever that you got to think of creators as like their own little media channels, right? So like
Mhm.
I'm engaging with Robin because Robin has an audience and I think that audience is relevant to my brand. Now, whether that is from a conversion standpoint, awareness standpoint, or cachet standpoint, I think understanding those caveats are really, really important. If I want a big creator, understanding, the expectation, and I'll leave on this, right? There's one thing to know your campaign. There's another thing to know the creators. But I think as a team, big team, small team, expectations is really, really important as not only we establish the campaign, but as we look at the back end of the campaign and do we think it's successful or not successful? What a lot of small brands and big grip brands get wrong is they think by getting this person, something's going to happen that collectively is not really the result, right? So the biggest celebrity doesn't move the most amount of product, right? And I think those are the nuances that are really, really important as you look at budget, you look at campaign structure, you look at who you choose and why you choose them.
I think that is such a great point, and that leads me to my next question. How should brands balance working with all of the different range of creators? Anyone can take it.
I can take it, but I feel I'm always speaking. So go ahead, Sonny. You go.
Oh, you know what? I was just going to go off of kind of piggyback what you said earlier. And I think the first thing, and I think a little bit of what Brian spoke, is you have to know your goals. So that's going to help determine, is it, large creators, small creators, what's your budget? That's always a really big question whenever you're working somewhere. So what are your goals? What are your budgets? What are you looking to, what do you want? Do you want awareness? Do you want conversion? Do you want to, really focus on sales? I think I would start with there. That would be my main question.
I can add to that. So if you have a product or a service and that product and service needs education around it. So for example, does the consumer know what it is? Right. I think that's really important. So then you can lean into a bucket of, well, we need a lot of UGC content. We need a lot of real people telling other people what the product is and why they use it. Or do I want my brand just to feel really cool? Right. Do I want it to feel dope? Do I want to shape my brand in a way that people get a perception about it because it's associated with a certain type of person? But again, you have to be very clear on what you hope the expectation to be. So, and also understand that if you're going to run a smaller level or a lower level campaign, so UGC or ambassador or whatever the case may be, you win in numbers, right? The more you get, the more the content's out there, the more it's seen, the more it feels like arbitrage on the industry. So I think that, it's understanding what you want to accomplish. Do I want to become the cool brand on the street? Do I want to get people to walk into the store and buy my product? Do I want them to go to my site and click a button? all these are really, really important. And there's going to be a common theme. Everybody's going to say something similar, but it's really important that you understand what you want to have happen. And then from there, work with your team to decide who are the right people and why are they the right people, and then be able to explain that to stakeholders, other people within the company, that that's the right decision.
And I would add, Brian, very quickly that you also need to know the state of your brand, because before you mention new companies, startups, you really have to dive into, does people know your product? Do they know who you are? What's happening? Do you have followers on your own social media? Because sometimes, and I go to a lot of sales calls for different brands, and brands is, I'm launching a new brand and a new product, and I want a celebrity talking about me. And then you go to their Instagram and they have 200 followers. So there is a step that they are missing there. So I would add knowing where your brand and your product is at.
I'm gonna sound like horribly like simple about this, but I like think a lot about the marketing funnel, right? So your goals at the top of the funnel would be pure reach awareness, and that's actually a really great role for a really big like mega creator who can just get people to recognize your brand. I think your micro or your nano influencer is probably most relevant at the lower funnel, or if you want to do like a mega nano strategy where you have a ton of them talking about your brand, that could work as well. But I do find like actually your smaller creator has like a much deeper relationship with the consumer, and ultimately will probably be better at converting the consumer at the lower funnel. So I definitely think about things in the context of like a traditional marketing funnel, and then there's a lot of like variation within each of those. Um, so yeah, and then I think every brand is going to have a different POV about whether they think investing a ton on the brand equity is going to be what's going to deliver the end of the day sale versus a ton in like lower funnel immediate sales. I think like maybe like younger brands that just need to get revenue at the beginning of like figuring out how like whether this product market fit is great to have like a micro or a nano influencer start to sell their products and like push it so they can make some profit and then maybe ultimately invest in the brand. But others might decide we're going to do the brand first and hope that that means that it will probably sell on its own via D2C. So every marketer will have a POV on this. So yeah.
And on the piggyback, I think the brand equity conversion conversation is always this like crucial conversation inside of organization, because you have one side that says, no, we're going to do cool brand stuff, do great videos. And then you have growth that's saying like, well, that doesn't convert. And there's always going to be this balance. And so it's crucial to understand, back to I think it was Mara's statement, like where are you in the evolution or like the trajectory of your brand? Because if you invest too heavily up front in brand equity, you could end up not having the conversion because there is a long tail to that. And there's really big brands, right? Like New Balance credits their explosion in the market with going back to brand equity and away from conversion and sales. And so like it's just having a good understanding for what you're doing, why you're doing it. And then I did see a comment, how do you gauge success, I think is really important. So it's like, if I give somebody $50,000 to do one post, what did I expect them to do? And then what actually happened, right? Versus that I give 300 people a budget of 100,000. So understanding, having a good finger on the pulse of what we think this person or people are going to do is a crucial conversation to have upfront, and then something to revisit later. And then what works, you can double down on. What doesn't work, you can pivot. But this brand equity conversion conversation is something that's going to happen the entirety of the brand. So that was a really good point.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the best approach really is a diversified approach, not putting all of your money into a celebrity because you don't know if it's gonna pan out or not. And investing in micro creators that have better trust with their audiences as opposed to someone who's slinging brand deals left and right. I'm curious to hear from you guys a little bit about how you're finding creators and how you're sourcing them and what that strategy looks like for something that you're working on.
Well, I work in an agency, so I can go because that's my job. And well, about sourcing, we have our own marketplace, but you can go to any tool, and you can also go to every social media. Then you have to do like the opposite way of checking metrics and checking numbers. But I think the betting part is very, very important, both for influencers and for UGC creators. I work with both. And for UGC creators, it's not just finding the person, I would say. Let's say a brand wants a blonde Gen Z New Yorker. Okay, that's great. But then you have to see what type of content you are creating. Maybe you have to do a street interview and a yapping concept. So it's not only this person, it's this person at their skills, they have to be able to deliver what you're looking for. And then I would say, I know brands love follower count and we have talked about it, but you have to look at an influencer in detail. You have to look at their views, at their engagement rate, at their audience, Maybe a celebrity has 5 million followers and they are all male, but you are targeting a female audience. So that's not going to work with you. So I would say going very, very deep on each person. And first, of course, face, persona, vibe, then into the metrics, taking the views and the audience and the age and the location and all of that. And then seeing what type of content they create. How do they engage with their audience? Are they speaking to the camera? Are they doing voiceover? Are they replying to the comments? Are the comments reels? And all of that, I think you really have to invest time reviewing and vetting each person, because it is an inversion. It's not wasting time. It's actually putting time into your brand.
That is amazing. And it makes me wonder, how do you set creators up for success then, once you've found someone who you think is going to do really well for your brand?
Well, I can do very quickly here. And I would say the right brief is the key of everything. For UGC, we sometimes do scripts, for example, and that's great, but you need to deep dive into the script. And you also need to make the creator understand the brief, because sometimes we see internal lingo, half explanations, no explanation about the brand or anything like that. So that's really, really important. And for influencers, I would say finding the balance between getting your message delivered, doing do's, doing don'ts, and all of that, but leaving room for creativity, because that's where magic happens, when each creator can understand the brand and the message and can deliver it in their own way, I would say. And that's the key. But I'm wondering what everyone else is thinking.
I just really want to echo the like, I don't want to say protection, but like the make sure that the creator has lots of space to play in their own voice and their own authentic way of connecting. I had somebody say something to me once. They called it, like, when we first started working with creators, like as an industry, they saw a lot of what they called prison cell advertising, which basically is like somebody is making you say a script that like you don't actually believe in the product. And I think like what we found, like, just in general, is that like creators want to speak in their own voice, right? Like they talk to their audience the way that they need to talk to their audience, and so if we can protect like that, and invest a ton in the education about the brand, what it is they're selling, versus giving them like direct scripts, like sometimes it's, I think, is better, and investing in like building a community so they understand your brand, communicating with them regularly as they're coming up with their videos. I think that's always really good. But yeah, making sure that they can speak in their own like voice is probably, I think, is the best. And the user who views the video probably sees that as less commercial in nature as well, which is usually better as well.
And this even goes back to the strategies depending on which type of creator you're targeting, right? If it's an influencer, obviously that influencer and the brand will work together to create the direction they want to take the video. If it's an affiliate, for example, whenever I'm briefing affiliates, I'm never writing out a direct script. First of all, they're not going to use that anyways. You're not paying them directly for the content, you're paying them for their ability to sell it, which they already know how to do. Let them do it. If you want to give a few ideas on like, here's a hook that worked really well in the past, feel free to like provide some ideas, guide them to the content you want them to create, but don't force them to make it.
What information are you sharing with them, Maya? Like, do you have talking points that they have to nail, or are you just loosey-goosey letting it rip?
Kind of in between. So not direct talking points. Well, I suppose it's kind of talking points. You're not like scripting them. You could say, here's some product benefits. Provide examples. If you have previous videos that worked really well with your paid ads that are coming from affiliates or coming from everyday customers, show them that. Say, hey, this one already converted. Feel free to iterate on it. I also like to provide like a list of different hooks for them to test. But again, at the end of the day, they're going to run with whatever they know works for them and what they know they can sell. So give them that creative freedom, specifically for affiliates. If you want to get really scripted and really just specific on the type of content and like the shot list and everything, that's when you bring in UGC, these user generated content creators. They're the ones that you're paying like maybe 200, $300, and they're going to create a video that you would then use for paid ads. They're not posting it on their social media, but that's where you could say, hey, this is the script we want to use, or this is the type of format we want. And then you can kind of go back and forth with that creator. But again, this just comes into the type of creator you're working with and allowing them to have that flexibility based on where they're at.
Just to add one thing to that. Oh,
please. No, please. I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, no, just to kind of add, like we always do have a list of do's and don'ts. So for example, depending on your product as well, like if you have a clothing, you don't want other brands in there. So there's definitely certain guidelines that you always have. And I think the best way we look at it is, a strong brief will give you the what and the why. So here's the product, here's the feeling we want to create, but then lets the creators, kind of figure out the how. And that's really kind of where the value lives. So I think that's another way to also look at it is like, you provide the what and the why and, let them figure out the how. Because, of course, like as everyone mentioned, everybody knows their audience, what's going to be authentic and native to them. You want to make sure also, one thing I will add is that, platform native creative is a big part too. So like, for example, a creator on TikTok really knows what's going to kind of earn the attention on the For You page, or the sounds, the pacings, the hooks, the formats. It's great to provide examples just as like a reference, but definitely always let them kind of run with it on their own, because obviously everyone knows the most converting videos are the ones that really just feel authentic, and everybody's voice is different. So what's authentic to one creator won't be authentic to the other.
I think that is the best framework for anyone who works at a brand. It's so simple. Write it down. The brand job is the what and the why, and then the how needs to come back to the creator. I think that sums up everything in this conversation. Brian, I saw you go off mute. I wasn't sure if there was something that you had to add.
I just wanted to say the circle back here is that a lot of it comes in the selection of the creator. So like if there's a lot of work done up front to really, because we're rolling the dice either way, guys, whether it's the biggest creator in the world or whether it's somebody with 10,000 followers, like you're rolling the dice to a certain degree. So you're hoping you're finding the right person for your brand that has the right audience that you want to can do the message. And then you brief them the best you can. And you just hope that they produce what you want them to produce. And sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not. And then test, repeat. That's kind of how it works. So that's the unsexy part of this, is that you do it over and over again, you find out what works, and you try it again.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because my next question was going to be, how do you source creators? What are you guys doing to find the right partners for your businesses?
I'll just be quick. There's an old school mentality, which is we have a brand, it's in beauty, we have a brand, it's in this, and what are we trying to accomplish? Who do we think is cool? Who's rad? Who's up and coming? I mean, the goal is like, how do we get the up and coming person before they're much more expensive? And it depends on the level of the creator, right? Like we identified the Calagaris sisters before they were the Calagaris sisters to today, for their rates were what they were. But it's really, we start with, are we looking to do a mass campaign? If we're looking to do a mass campaign, we will engage with agencies, right? We will engage with people that understand how to source mass amount of creators. We send out briefs and we go for a shock and awe campaign. But traditionally, those are supported by different layers. So we usually, at least on my side is we have somebody that's a bigger name that sets the tone. We have supporting under that. And then we go really wide with an agency, or we'll launch 3,000 creators at once, right? But really, we're trying to find creators that are in that catch the vibe of the brand, so that when that message is being broadcast to their people or to somebody else's person, it always comes back to what the brand kind of goal is, right? Are we cool? Are we travel? Are we millennial? Are we Gen Z? Are we Gen Alpha? Are we food? Are we product? Are we safety? Are we cachet? It just depends on what it is.
Yeah. And tactically, I want to hear tactically from someone. How? Like, what are the tactics?
Um, One thing, just based on if you're a brand that's already established, uh, obviously sourcing is important, getting outside the brand, but just a little trick that I have learned, back into the brand, go into the DMs. Who is already posting about your product? Who has tagged you before? Because there's going to be a lot of hidden gems in there who are also brand loyalists, right? And then
Mhm.
that authenticity is going to shine through if you were to pull them into some sort of creator campaign. And this works really well with affiliates because again, they know how to sell and they're already promoting. So just tactically go into the DMs, go through, look who's already, is there someone that fell through the cracks that has, maybe they're more micro creator or nano creator, but still worth re-engaging with. So
Mhm.
that's something I am a big advocate on.
That's really smart. Looking at your top customers, who's purchasing the most? Why are they purchasing? Do they want to give, access to their network independently, get some commission off of that? Mara, I see you are off
Yes,
mute.
I want to add something because, as Brian mentioned, sometimes you do need an agency to do a giant outreach and stuff like that. But my tip is very, very smart. I would add that. I would write that down. And also going into your tag post, we have found some amazing people by going into our tag posts, not
Hmm.
only the DMs, because if someone loves your brand, it's already interacting with it. So go do a deep dive. And also, if you're a new brand, which might be harder, maybe you can find a lookalike brand. Who do I want to be like? What brand shares my same audience? And you can go and look into that brand to get a little bit more information too.
I love that.
There are also like plenty of like marketplaces that you can go and look and filter for certain types of creators, which might give you like a good starting list, right? Mara's absolutely correct. You should probably vet all of those that come out of those lists, but they th those exist and you can definitely start there. And then sometimes it's just direct outreach to the creator if you have the like capability or time to do that. Um, but yeah, like there are definitely places to start for maybe if you're a smaller brand and you don't have the resources to necessarily do like an agency thing or whatnot. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And so I think the next thing we would want to talk about after figuring out what our strategy is, who we're working with, how we're finding them, how are we going to quantify a program? What type of KPIs are we looking at?
That's a tough one. So I think it goes back to like what are you trying to accomplish, right? Do I want reach? Is it the reach number? Am I trying to build my Instagram account? Am I trying to build my TikTok following? Am I trying to get, clicks through to the website? So I think again, not sexy, not super cool, but establish your guardrails before you do any of these campaigns, and then see how that works. And then that's really what it is. And so there is, I think, some standardized, and maybe somebody else that's on the agency side can speak to this, especially TikTok. Like there is data ahead of time that you can look at as a leading indicator on who might work under the parameters you want them to work. But ultimately, understanding what you hope for them to accomplish and why, and then kind of continue to go back to that. So that's really, I mean, I'll look at a larger creator and it's different. Like my KPI may be, hey, did we get an end cap at Target and did we get 3,000 doors, right? That's a way different KPI than, oh, did we get X amount of clicks to the website and what was the sales lift? And so I think KPIs are very, very unique in their own sense based on the brand, the budget, and what you're looking to accomplish.
That's super fair. Um, so I'm curious, like, how are we looking at scaling creator relationships?
I can kind of speak a little bit to this one. I think, the first thing I think the first thing I would say to look at is like, consistent conversions, right? Are the affiliate codes driving sales consistently? Is the OCTR strong across placements? IROS, is it above the benchmark? I think then when a creator kind of starts becoming a top conversion driver across your social campaigns, that's when you know that it's really time to scale it. I think another thing is, if a creator can really produce that high quality platform native content at a volume without feeling so forced and repetitive, right? That's also worth investing. And, that's something that you kind of know that once when you're with the brand, which ones are gonna seem authentic. I think the best ones I've worked with are ones who can really kind of maintain that authenticity at scale, right? So when the content performs as paid creative, that's what I would say is a green flag that they've become a brand asset. And I think for affiliates specifically, I'll add that I will say one thing to always remember is you always want to look at quality over quantity, right? um are they just collecting a link, these creators, or are they actually converting? That's a really big question because oftentimes that's something that's overlooked, right? So the ones worth scaling, some things that we look at are like, do they have strong save rates? Do they have a genuine audience engagement around the products, right? The comments, you can look at things like the comments. Are they showing real purchase intent, not just like passive viewing? I would say that's a couple of things to think about when you're scaling your affiliate program.
All really great points. I'm curious to know, once you find those gems for your brand, how are you nurturing that relationship and really supporting it to incentivize them to continue working with you?
I'll just jump quickly or say my last thing and then let someone else speak. But I think you want to look at them like some of the influencers that I've had or creators that I've had relationships with. You just treat them honestly like you treat them like they're your friends or people that you would talk to, right? Like maybe you remember a birthday, they have an Instagram, or maybe you wish them happy anniversary, or like you also look at them and engage with them like real people, because that's also like I think also often overlooked with brands. Like you just, these are people, you're signing a contract, you're getting them, are they sales? But you want to look at really making, if you want those relationships to last, look at them as real people. Those kind of things can really help. Sometimes just like having those real relationships with them and really being able to maintain that, like I said, birthdays or anniversaries or hi, how's it going? Or just talking to them, or even when you're like briefing over emails, you don't just have to get into business. Sometimes we forget that, right? Because it's a basic thing, but you'd be surprised because some of the creators that I have relationships will tell you. And I think it was a creator that actually spoke about this, Chriselle M, in I saw one of her interviews, and she said, the brands that I have the best relationships are ones that treat me like a real person. We have real conversations. And that's not something you're going to learn. It's just something you do.
Totally. I
Oh,
love
I really
that.
want to add to that because I think that's crucial. We see a lot of brands treating creators and influencers like an asset instead of a person, and that's not going to get you anywhere. And I would say that building that relationship is very important. Also, having fair compensation is also very important. And I would add to that as well that you have to, creators are creative, like building that and rapport with them, building that relationship where they can be creative partners as well, sometimes being open for them to come and say, hey, I would like to try this, how do you think we can work on this? Or I want to test my own concept, or I had a creator jump, and I'm sure many people met Tiago from my team before. He's our creative director, and I have had creators sit with them to chat about what's the best video and the best concept and the best hook or whatever. I think that giving them room to actually be part of the content and the brand strategy, because they are part of the brand strategy, is very, very important as well.
I love that. I love that so much. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from today overall is that the more that you invest in creators, the larger return your business will see. They're not a paid media asset. They can be a legitimate infrastructure that drive millions upwards of multi-millions for your brand. And so looking at the time and where we're at and where the conversation has been, I'm curious to hear just from everyone, what is like working really well for you right now in the creator space that you can share?
Oh, I would say it really depends on the brand. And we were presenting something, we were talking about yapping concepts, which are very trending, but maybe that's not for your brand. So I really would say that depends on your brand, and also really depends on the openness of your brand. One of our recent videos to go viral this year was a video where the influencer made a rap song about the product. And that's something unique and authentic, but that's possible because the brand was open enough to let us create that brief for that influencer. But I really would say we see trends and we're all on TikTok and Instagram, of course, but I would say it really depends on your brand and your target audience because you're not speaking Gen Z and Gen X in the same way.
Oh, no,
Sorry,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Why don't you go first, and then we'll kick it over to Somi.
Something that I really love seeing these days amongst like brands and studios and different like people is like the creation of these like creator networks, right? Where they like have a set of creators that they engage with regularly who can like help them understand how maybe like their audience would like how their audiences would receive certain brand or product decisions. They can also help like the marketing teams and like maybe executives understand like how that works, and then you build that relationship with the creator, and the creator wants to have relationships with brands too, right? Like I think that they want to build their lives as a creator. So I really like the idea of creator networks that I've seen a little bit more of these days. Um, I haven't seen the numbers on how effective they are, but it's an interesting model that I think is like helping us like transition into more creator-centric marketing. Yeah.
And I see Maddie has joined us. Is it time?
It's almost time. You guys have time to answer a couple more questions. I see some in the Q&A session. I think one was asking about metric tracking mistakes you see with brands launching TikTok Shop campaigns. And they say there's so much impact that happens thanks to TikTok Shop. How would you objectively match it all? Which brand metrics would you measure before and after? I'm guessing they're talking about TikTok Shop affiliates, like creators and communities. Who would want to take this?
Do you have 45 more minutes?
There we go. Brian, what are the top highlights? What is Trip doing?
No, I think we need a TikTok person in here to answer this one because I think that's.
I know.
Yeah.
I feel like
that takes a while. Okay, we got another one in the chat. Somebody asked like more of a operational question. Are you still using Google Sheet for sourcing and outreaching, or are you using a new tool to track all leads or where they're at? I saw you shout out Kruva, but what is the importance of doing that? Like, what do you do with all the bandwidth that you get once you have a tool that's automating it? And what's the tool that people should use? Yeah, maybe people need to remind.
Yeah, any sort of like CRM bot can just help save time on outreach, but also tracking metrics. When it comes to affiliate marketing, any sort of creator marketing, you're already doing a lot of manual tasks if you're doing it right and building those relationships, right? That you shouldn't be spending your time tracking with like manually on a Google Sheet when there are platforms out there meant to save you that time and do it. So I'm a big fan of Kruva. There's also others like Yuka, Reacher. All of those out there will essentially consolidate all of that TikTok Shop data and help you read it and determine what metrics are important for you and your brand and what you're tracking.
Amazing. I think that's most of the time we have. But before you let you go, I have to ask, what does community mean to each of you? I'd love a one-word answer. We're doing this political debate style. Robin, let's start with you. Lead the charge.
What does community mean to me? One word. I think belonging.
Belonging. I love that. Yes. On.
Connection.
Connection. Saw me.
Trust.
Yes. Huge one. Brian.
I'll say conviction, right? It's a bunch of people that have conviction about one thing. I like that word.
I love that. That makes a community. Mara.
I'm gonna say openness both ways.
Oh, partnership. My favorite word.
Exactly.
Maya, close us out.
I'm gonna say access.
Access. I love that. All words that define a community, and you guys were dropping so much knowledge. I saw you even interacting with folks that were asking questions throughout the session. These folks are going to be backstage and are going to be answering some of your questions live. They'll also be dropping all of their contact info so you know where to connect with them and where to listen to Robin's awesome word of mouth podcast and all the incredible guests that she has on. Believe me, guys, if you haven't listened before, today is the day your new life begins. Thank you guys so much.